Hey everybody out there, my name is Dryadnix, and a little bit of an update for the channel for you guys today, as well as a little bit of a peer into the future of the channel at this point. I will put some Darkest Dungeon in the background, mostly because I am reviewing it for TechRaptor at this point. Now, I did start over, even though they provided heroes for the end of the game and some of the stuff I haven't experienced yet. To be a objective reviewer and to understand the full experience, I started from the beginning because there have been significant changes that have been made since the start of the game in its early access phase. I want to get the full experience, so I started over. Those who have been following me on Facebook and Twitter have probably seen a little bit more nervousness out of me over the last several weeks. And if you aren't following me on Facebook and Twitter, I'll leave those links in the description below. I got to get this running as a legitimate business sooner rather than later, and so I need to take a look at what steps I can do in order to improve that. Now, I have joined things like YT Talk in terms of forums and try to promote myself more, but I took a look at the analytics and in particular what videos have done well and what videos have done alright at this point. Taking a look at that, it's become clear to me that I need to focus a little bit more on mid-level releases at this point. Now, things like Mad Max, things like Transformers Devastation, they haven't done well in comparison to everything else. But when I take a look at things like Shadowrun Hong Kong, when I take a look at Rodea the Sky Soldier, when I take a look at Onichiabra Z2 Chaos, they've done a lot better than I thought they would in terms of that mid-level release. And I do think I need to focus more on that. So in the description below, there is a straw poll for the game that I will cover of the mid-level or higher level releases in the first week of February. There are games like Gravity Rush Remastered, that new Digimon game for the PS4, Nitro Blast Plus, it's a fighting game, and then XCOM 2. I know XCOM 2 is sort of the odd man out there because I feel like that hits the AAA sort of kind of, but the fact of the matter is that I do love XCOM, and I do feel like it's a little bit more under the radar than some things like Call of Duty or things like, Uncharted, for example. That way you guys can become involved in the channel as well as, telling me what you guys want to see, and hopefully that is a capture of what the general gaming audience wants to see in terms of those, mid-level releases. Now, I'll do that for a couple weeks to see how it goes and see how those videos do at this point. Now, does that mean I will stop my indie game coverage? Hell no. The fact of the matter is that this is what the channel was made for, to give those games and to match them with you guys. So that won't stop. But the fact is that for those mid-level games, those games that I probably won't get necessarily a review copy for, that I'll take a little bit more time with, then I do want to make that sort of the project, the main project in the background while I work on some of those other indie titles that are a little bit faster and a little bit more straightforward. Now, in terms of the video style at this point, it's clear that reviews in terms of scripted reviews do a lot better in terms of, people liking the coverage and, not having problems with the coverage than my sort of rambling portions. Now, I got to be careful on that because I do want to cover a variety of games, and trying to cover so many games in a small amount of time and scripting them all is a problem. The fact of the matter is that it's easier to do a rambling portion and have to re-edit over and over again than to do some of the scripted portion and the heavy editing that some of those videos take. If I want to keep the coverage up in terms of the number of games, I have to, make a compromise there. So that will be a ratio that I will be working with in the background. I will be spending more time trying to promote myself at this point. Again, I said that I would, take a look at the YT Talk forums, trying to, push myself more out there in social media. I have been tweeting a lot more just so that I can, make connections at this point. Now, in terms of collabs and things like that, that's where I think things get a little bit hairy for me because I'm not a Let's Player. I am not a person who necessarily does well in a humorous environment, even though at times I can, have my moments. But the thing is that I'm a reviewer, and I don't like my review being maybe biased by somebody else. So it's a little bit strange on that level, and I'm not exactly sure how collabs can help me in that element. Any feedback that I can get from anyone who's sort of similar in nature at this point, I'd love to hear at this point. And again, I am trying to get advice from other YouTubers who are of a similar nature to me in terms of the content that I create. Now, those who have probably been following me on Twitter have noticed that I've been doing a little bit more writing for TechRaptor. I haven't been doing a lot of video content for them, and I do wish that I did more video content for them in terms of the bigger videos for them at this point. But I have been, doing a little bit more writing, in particular with the YouTube space. That was a little bit weird for me. Now, not that I was assigned the topic in question, but I've been bringing up issues in terms of like Markiplier being hacked, things like the Game Grumps leaving Polaris, the whole Maker Studio situation in terms of the sort of privatizing of videos. And those have done reasonably well compared to everything else, especially compared to some of the game stuff that I've written about. That's sort of depressing in my mind in terms of, okay, how did that, make it? And, writing about a new game that had just come out, didn't. But they are reasonable issues in terms of like Yandere Simulator being banned from Twitch and Twitch absolutely not responding to any questions. One thing I will say about the reporting world in terms of, gaming, no one responds. Literally no one responds unless if you are doing PR for them, basically, which is sad. But unfortunately, that is the business as it is right now. So I've been using that as a supplementary tool. Again, that doesn't pay the bills, but it could help in the long run. Now, the next section of this video will be controversial to some, and I do need to explain what's going on and to make sure that you guys understand exactly what my decision process was regarding it. Several people have come to me in the past and in the last couple of weeks even, or the last couple of days even, talking to me about, hey, look, I would love to support the channel financially. I would love to be able to, put a little bit of money in so that you can get some of these fears out of the way in terms of being able to live, a reasonable life in terms of, okay, I have health insurance, so on and so forth. Now, a lot of people have approached me saying, why don't you start a Patreon? I've been sort of mixed on that at this point. On one hand, I think Patreon gets sort of a bad rap because of how abused it can come in terms of people using it in sort of nefarious ways. It's very much a tool, and if people abuse the tool, then it gets this sort of stigma about it that it's not useful to people. People, begging for money at this point. With that said, the tool itself is reasonable in terms of being able to fund things like TechRaptor, for example. Those YouTubers or those, artists who don't necessarily make the money in terms of ad revenue at this moment, but could use the boost in terms of a daily, weekly, monthly thing. With a lot of thought put into it, I thought about, do I open one or do I not? I decided to open one at this point, and the link is in the description below as well as the main channel. Now, I want to be perfectly clear. I don't expect people to donate at this point. If you watch the channel and you've been watching from the start, I appreciate it at this point. Have you've been using ad blocker? Well, I could go on and on about the problems with ad blocker. I still appreciate that you view the videos at this point. With that said, for those who do want to donate and those who do want to help out, I have opened it at this point. Will I have tiers of rewards? No, I don't think in terms of providing, not scaled content, but, tiered content. I don't find that useful. I do say that I will give a reward in terms of anybody who donates. I will match them up in terms of a game. They can contact me and I can, try to match them to their, specific tastes. Even though you can do that in terms of the videos as well on the channel. For those people who haven't necessarily watched everything, I can get an idea of exactly what you like and offer a couple of options for you at this point, sort of like a gaming matchmaker per se. Do I expect that to fix my problems? No, not at all. Do I even think anyone is going to donate? Probably not. Even those who approached me asking, hey, I want to donate some money, and I understand that they're probably being completely honest at that point, and I don't have any reason to not believe them. I just don't see people paying for things like that where they can get information elsewhere. Yes, I feel like I make a great quality of video and I try to hit the, every aspect of it. But, again, a lot of the people here, they've got hard lives at this point. They've got, stuff that they've got to look at. And I understand completely at this point. The option's there for those who want it at this point. And anyone who does, I do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I also won't bring it up in terms of the videos at least that often. Maybe once every 2 weeks or once every 4 weeks at this point. I don't want to say, like, add it to the end card, for example, because I just don't see that being, useful at this point in terms of, oh, hey, you can donate to my Patreon. It feels like more of a begging situation that I don't want to do at this point. I don't want to be, hounding people for it. Now, finally, in terms of sort of my stuff, in terms of what I know I can improve on, a lot of people have been bringing up some good comments lately in terms of what I can do to improve. And the big thing I need to figure out is the whole transitional statement situation. When I'm doing a rambling video, the fact of the matter is that for some reason I always go to the same phrase over and over and over again. Now, the way that I do videos in terms of lately, I've done a lot of different styles at this point, but in particular with the non-scripted videos lately, it's been things like, okay, I have a set of note cards and a set of ideas, and I try to record as much as I can. When I don't feel like it's up to quality, I stop and re-record at this point, hitting certain cut points in terms of, okay, I got a minute out of that, let me stop, and then, use that footage or use that audio clip and then go on to the next. With that said, what one of the weaknesses of that editing style is that when I go to transition, so that, I've done a minute section there and I want to go to the next section, sometimes I forget exactly where I am and I end up putting a transitional statement like at this point or in this clip, so on and so forth. What in particular seems to be the major problem there is the fact that I reuse the phrase over and over and over and over and over again. In the Crashlands video, it was the phrase in question. At one point, it was at this point. What's weird about it is the fact that despite the fact that I have all these different phrases I've used in different videos, when I'm inside one video, I use the same phrase. I don't switch it up, and I don't understand why I'm doing that at this point. Now, part of that could be the fact that I need to go back and re-listen to it reasonably at this point, maybe listen to it for a third or fourth time. When you go through the editing process that I do and you finally get that video down to, the 12th minute and everything like that, it's hard to go back and say, okay, that doesn't sound bad, or, that I've used too many in questions at this point, because unfortunately what it does is the fact that you have to re-record everything. And I do want to get things in a timely manner. Part of that will be helped with more scripting in terms of the stuff that I'm doing. Part of it will be more confidence on my side because my confidence has been weighing lately because of the stuff that's happening with the channel. But with that said, I've got to really do something to fix that at this point. Now, in terms of the overall style stuff and what's going on in the background, I did finally upgrade the Windows 10 because the preview of a game that I will be doing in terms of, it's called something with stories at this point. Stories, hold on, I'm bringing up the email as we speak right now. Stories, the Path of Destiny. One of the problems I had with Windows 8 was the fact that, hey, guess what? A certain Visual Studio 2015 package would not upgrade on that. And unfortunately, it finally came to a head with the stories portion. I was able to get around it at first with other ones, able to use an older package. This one wasn't the case, and so I did finally upgrade to Windows 10. I hopefully won't see that much of an effect on the videos in question, but it is Windows. God knows that it will do something to the system in question. As to what to expect for this week in particular, the fact of the matter is that this week feels like a letdown compared to the last week, especially in the indie scene. The indie scene last week had a lot of interesting games and a lot of things that, really was a strong week in terms of overall releases. Crashlands comes to mind, Bug Butcher, even things like Death by Game Show had something interesting for me to take a look at, and I didn't even get to some of the other ones within that week. So that was a good week, but when I take a look at this week, a lot of the bigger titles are things like Final Fantasy Explorers for the 3DS. I don't cover 3DS games because, well, the fact of the matter is 3DS hardware capture stuff is expensive as hell. Let's just put it that way. The Rise of the Tomb Raider PC port comes out. I'm not sure if people want to see a port report on that. Maybe at this point, and I do love the Tomb Raider franchise. In the indie scene, it just seems like this week is just sort of barren at this point. I do have a Rabby video I'm going to try to do on Thursday in terms of a, bullet hell platformer, which is a weird statement to say the least. I do have a preview of Stories, which I mentioned before, as well as a key for an early access game of Hero Defense, which I don't usually do early access in terms of a regular video. I will probably do a dev letter on that. But I also want to sort of cover Bombshell. I am wary of the launch day embargo on that, and I don't have a key for it, though. But it's one of those games where it's just like, okay, it's 3D Realms, or at least what was 3D Realms. It had an interesting concept. Maybe I'll take a look at it. And it is in that mid-level portion that I said I would take a look at. Now, in terms of the sort of downer status that I have sort of put on this video, I will say that there have been things that have lifted me up. I always want to thank you guys for interacting with me, and thank you for watching my videos, giving me feedback, being straight to the truth on things, especially people like Don Parsons over at Tech Raptor, and all the people like Captain Fluffy Muffin, Dynasty Star, all you guys. And even the new people who I've interacted with, the person who I interacted with, Crashlands, going back and forth on whether the game was right for him. I love doing that for people, and I love, trying to find the right game for you. So I thank you all for watching videos and giving me the feedback and making sure that, you point out that I say in question in a video a lot. And my voice is going out. That's been happening a lot more lately, unfortunately. But again, I will keep this up as long as I can, guys. And I thank you for watching, and you'll see a little bit more content from me later in the week. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button in the middle of the screen. The last video I did will be in the top left, and a related video to this will be in the top right. I do have a Twitter handle at the bottom left, and a Facebook page at the bottom right. And of course, you can always subscribe to the Google Plus portion. Anyway, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.